Welcome to Storytelling with Quack. Add logs to the flame. We will, as always, start with a story.
If you stood atop the hill in the centre of the village to cast your eyes through the evergreen trees and the honey-making bees, you could just about see the house where the sun went to sleep. Those who woke up early on a day like today would consider the majesty of a waking yellow fire that took to the sky and gifted warmth to their souls. Yet, in the house where the sun lay its head, the old lady shivered with dread. Her heart sank when the sun rose. It signaled the start of another day without the sounds of her children creating or her grandchildren playing. 1,094 days reduced the loss not a jot. If the stories were true, even her youngest grandchildren, Hansel and Gretel, wielded weapons to the commands of power, only to fill their hole-laden pockets once again. Blue skies reminded her of little mouths blowing bubbles and innocent trouble. Green grass where children sat aghast at chocolate fountains and mini edible houses, posed luscious and bare, like no human ever lay there. Still, her days started true and she baked like she used to, leaving sweet moist treats for the birds and the bees. She would give them to the villagers, but they thought her an idiot who survived her own children. They spat in her face, but what they'd give for a taste of a morsel of cake or a crumb on a plate. Guilt dragged her down, but shame was the shovel that buried her underground. This very morning, before the sun pushed back the covers, the old lady heard a splattering or nattering. Gretel, look! It's a house! No, a street's made of cake! Footsteps quieter and beating steadier than the old lady's heartbeat closed in. Oh, Hansel, it's a miracle! We won't starve! We're going to be okay! It couldn't be. Of this she was sure. Her grandchildren passed of 11 and 4, but anticipation impossible to hide. She grabbed some chocolate and stepped outside. It was clear these children were not her kin, but she smiled a Cheshire cat smile all the same, lodged in her mind from an earlier time when she made Hansel a gingerbread house. She extracted a little rhyme. Nibble, nibble, my little rat. It's my house you're nibbling at. To her surprise, the children replied, we're the wind, we're the breeze that plays in the tree. With such joy in her heart, the old lady almost walked upright. The children heard her stick before they saw her and dropped their food. Sorry, miss, we weren't being rude, they cried. Don't be silly. Come in for some stew, she replied. Come on now, you little munchkins. I'm old and slow. You don't need to worry. My name's Melissa, and I'll get the luncheon. I've got lots more food inside. You can have some and bring some home to your parents when you're done. Melissa rustled up quite the feast. The children devoured it like little beasts, but when she asked them where they lived, they went quiet. Look, you can stay tonight if you have nowhere to go, but your parents need to know by tomorrow. Otherwise, there'll be riots. Noticing the lack of meat on the children's bones, Melissa frowned. She gave an extra slice of pie to get them through the night and came down in her gown in the morning. Breakfast broke their fast with enough to last for a day or even 3. She smiled like a child at the children who came in from the wild, but she knew she must set them free. Tell me what happened, my loves, she inquired. They finally told her of the toil and trouble that led them to leave home and pitch up at her door. They were dropped in the forest by starving parents, destined by leaders to stay poor. Nobody would feed them, nobody could feed them, but leaving them still smacked of cruelty. Melissa decided to forgive. She'd look after them until they grew a little wider, then give them back with enough food to feed the whole family. Hansel gained weight, but when Gretel stood straight, her ribs could be seen from the moon. She worried and scurried and begged little Gretel to have just one more spoon. Oh, Hansel, you're cute enough and plump enough to eat. If only we could do the same with your sister. Hansel's eyes widened. Are the stories true? They say that people like you with big noses, that you're witches, that you eat children and bury their bones with dead roses. Melissa couldn't help but gasp. Cruelty like this, passed on to a child who knew no better, stung just as strong every time. The idea that she was lesser than they, simply because of her creed, slapped the idea of changing minds and remain forever hard to grasp. It's not true, my love, no. But I really think we'd better get you both home to your parents. Help me finish the baking, and you can take everything we make. Melissa struggled to bend, so she asked Gretel to spend a moment taking out the last batch from the oven. Gretel refused and started crying loudly. I won't let you eat me! I'm not portly and rounded! Melissa's temper didn't spark like the fire, but she gasped and shoved her broom out of the way. As she bent down to remove the turkey crown, Gretel gave her a push. Her face was engulfed with the flame from the hearth, and both their children scarpered. Melissa lived with her face forever scarred, and the children returned some days later. Parents in tow, they stole and cajoled Melissa to bake some more cakes. That's the last thing you'll do, you stuck-up shrew. Who are you to take care of our kids? It's sad to imagine, but they preferred to see their children starve than a foreigner carve meat and a nicer life. They'd been led to believe that the faults of their nation were not with the people who lead, but instead with the other who beg still and borrow from a land that's not their own.
Welcome everybody to Storytelling with Puck. It's our second evening of storytelling. Feel free to turn on your videos and unmute yourselves. So we've had quite a lot of stories the last few days.
Yes, it's been incredible. The quality of story is always amazing during Storytelling with Puck, but this year maybe it's up even another level, I think. We've had stories about everything. We've had stories about A body or D body. We'll let Gary decide. We've had we've had stories about a mission. We've had stories that revolve around leadership of sorts, or at least leadership lessons. What else have we had?
A lot of have you evers
Oh,
to prompt us to think, and even some musical numbers. So we have to thank Gary for the musical number at the start of the video there.
Yes, we really enjoyed that, Gary. Much appreciated, mate.
Thanks for sharing.
And yeah, so it's been unbelievable, and obviously it's still going. We're only halfway through. I know that we've only got a few of us here this evening, but I think a few people are watching on YouTube, and quite a lot more people have said they're going to come next Tuesday for the final Zoom session as well. But with the four of us that are here tonight, hopefully we can still immerse ourselves and share some brilliant stories and have a bit of a chat and get the same feeling that we always love with the Storytelling with Puck Zoom evenings. We would love you guys. I know that it can sometimes be a bit daunting, but we'd love you to share with us and to keep up the vibrancy. But just to give you a little bit of time, we will start with Cyan sharing the story. But it's not one of your own. This one is
from Janice Taylor. The mission. What can I do today to help you positively change your life? Sylvie almost jumps out of her skin as the voice chirps from the app as she taps at it, more from idle curiosity than anything else. I am your happy app, designed to bring joy and positivity into your life. Don't think so, says Sylvie as she struggles to shut down the app, her curiosity quickly replaced with irritation. She's no recollection of downloading this app, and her frustration grows as it sends notifications, emojis, or some chirpy noise as she continues her journey to work. While it is encouraging her to step fully into her awesomeness, Sylvie almost steps into the path of an oncoming bus as she struggles to shut it down. If she had ended up under the wheels of the bus, Sylvie imagines she would have needed more than a few healing chakras to recover. After taking note of the salute from the shaken driver, Sylvia shuts down her phone completely and resolves to sort it all out once she is safely back at the office. She can then examine the app, which has somehow appeared on her phone. Unfortunately for Sylvie, she had a few immediate issues to deal with as she had arrived at work. And at some point during a particularly trying exchange with Rex, a long-standing member of her team, she automatically switches on her phone. She's only reminded of the app once she returns to her office. I think you could have handled that a little better. How would you have handled it? Sylvie asks as she gazes in astonishment at her phone. In her heated exchange with Rex, she had forgotten entirely about the app and her intention to sort it out. Her phone starts to vibrate in her hand, as though it is thinking, and then announces, I might have arranged another time to talk through the issue in greater detail rather than trying to sort it out at that moment. There is something in its tone that brings Sylvie close to throwing it across the office. Instead, she takes a few steadying breaths as she considers some of the app's response. The issue was more complex and involved than a quick chat in the corridor merited, and Rex seemed decidedly unnerved by the exchange. Still, it is one thing to bombard her with happy notifications. It is quite another to have the thing eavesdropping on her conversations and chipping in with advice, even if it is well meant. How do I get rid of you? Sylvie asks, recognizing there is no need to type anything if it can just listen in. You can't, is the almost immediate reply. I will only leave once my mission is complete. What mission? Croaks Sylvie, freaked out by this whole exchange, and she resolves to renew her phone and number at the weekend. There is no sound as the words "to make you happy" appear on the screen. Until next time.
Janice, thank you so much for that story. It was absolutely brilliant. What did you guys think of that? I don't know if you had a chance to read it before tonight, or if this is the first time you've heard it.
I did. Shall I comment on it? Just I really liked it, and I made the comment that like be interesting to see if it was something you could delete, whether you would or whether you would sort of hesitate just out of curiosity, just to see what it was going to suggest. And she she said, "That's another story."
She's right too. It is, isn't it?
Yeah. But I really liked it. And just the style of the way it was written was very sort of. I like that kind of narrative that's just it's only describing what you need and it's only showing you what you need, and so that it gives you your imagination space, I think, to picture the scene. Because I realized afterwards you sort of do it unconsciously, but I thought about it like I could actually see her in the corridor, and so yeah, I thought it was really good. And I liked sorry if I've got the name wrong, Nicola Richardson.
Yes.
Run the story of her daughter sort of just getting browbeaten at school until she went to a different school, and because of a diagnosis, how she sort of just kind of came alive just by being treated different. I really liked that one as well.
Yeah, no, it was a really good story. Hopefully, actually, a bit later we might get a chance to read that as well, and add it to the collection because it is a great story. And Nicola often writes during storytelling with Puck and puts a story out there, and there's always a different take. I think there's always something new to what she's doing, and one of the stories we frequently mention when we're trying to persuade people to come and enjoy this week is Nicola wrote a story about chocolate brownie a few years ago, which was the very light-hearted side of what she could write, and just about missing out on it. And then she can also play to the incredibly kind of deep and emotional story that really can affect everyone and teach lots of lessons, like she did with the story that we're talking about now. And like I said, hopefully we'll get to read in a short while. It's yeah, she's absolutely brilliant at what she does. And back to Janice's story as well, when you were talking about visualizing things. I've got almost a recurring image, almost like a GIF of the you're about to throw a phone, but you just don't want to do it. That's kind of going over in my head. I think it kind of goes back to your comment about not really wanting to, not being sure if you want to get rid of the app or not. It's also not being sure if you want to throw and smash your phone. Is that kind of imagery that she painted?
It was also, this is unnerving and disturbing, really, that this thing can actually interact and make suggestions. I'd be like, well, I do get stuck sometimes. You might be able to
help. What advice do you have?
Yeah. I'm going into this meeting, and these are my notes and the ideas.
So it's kind of one of those dystopian adventures, though, isn't it? Where they would eventually, the phone would be what takes over, and you would just be there sitting in the background trying to give your little bit of advice to the phone, rather than the phone giving their little bit of advice to you.
I just saw, because I'm on my phone, because the signal is and the connection and the quality and everything is just a lot better than my laptop internet and camera. So I didn't know who was here, so I was able to check the participants. I see Yulia's here, who I haven't seen for ages. So hello.
Hello. Hello everyone. It's lovely to see you all. It's been a long time.
It has been a while.
Kind of like our annual reunion now.
Yes.
Storytelling with
Pat. Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read all the stories up until now, but it's good that I get to hear some of them tonight. So
for sure, we will definitely be sharing a few. And how has your writing life been this year? Have you had much of an opportunity to get pen to paper or fingers to keyboard?
No, not quite, actually. I've been so busy with exams and studying that I didn't get a chance to write, but I'm actually having 2 exams this weekend. But yeah. But in the meantime, I hope to get the pen on paper and actually write something and enter this year also. So yeah.
Maybe tonight can give you like some inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's quite a weekend you got planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask what it's
2 exams? Sorry, go on, Gary.
Do you mind if I ask what it's for?
The exams, well, I totally shifted, or I am totally shifting my career perspectives, and I'm going into psychology, and these are some of the exams for finally finishing the psychology studies. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant!
Wow. Yeah. It's an incredible move, and well done for doing it as well. You've taken a leap. It's always a big step to change career and change. And so well done for doing it. It's brilliant. So,
and it sounds like if you got 2 exams in a weekend, it sounds like quite a commitment as well. So
yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
It's
not many people say roll on Monday, but you probably are. So.
Yeah, I had 8 exams in total, and I have 3 left. So
wow.
Yeah.
The end is in sight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you're still
Yes.
here, so you must want to write as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't just disappear, I don't think.
No.
So, as you are all here, and as you guys are experienced storytellers and story writers, is there anything that anyone would like to share? Any stories that any of you would like to share?
Well, I can read the poem that I entered last year, if it's
Yes.
okay with you.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. It's called Turmoil, and it goes like this. Sometimes it's quiet, soft, like a whisper. Sometimes it comes as a riot, leaving you bare like a drifter. And once in a while it screams, taking the shape of your darkest dreams. Who is to blame when you can't contain what is deep down inside? When it comes like a flood, drowning everything around, when it comes like a fire, leaving in ashes even the greatest empire, when it comes as a storm just to break every norm, when it comes like the wind, swift and nimble, seeking to rescind, when it makes the earthquake, tearing down all you can't seem to forsake.
Wow.
Thank
Wow.
you.
I remember that from last year.
Yeah.
It's an incredible story. So I think you were about to step in there, Gary.
No, I was just agreeing. I just said yes.
Oh.
Although
Okay.
I don't think I don't remember. It's the first time I've heard it.
Powerful, like the earthquake.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a link between that and the decision to move into psychology? Would that be like a
Well,
serious question?
well, actually, I made the move towards psychology in 2021, so it's a bit before before it's then. But yeah, it's always been a passion of mine, and it's yeah, my writings. Some of my writings tend to be deep enough to raise some questions and make the listener or the reader ponder upon
hmm.
some hidden meanings, some buried deep down inside the aspects of one's own existence. So yeah.
I definitely recognize that in your writing. When you said you were studying psychology, I was like, yes, of course.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I remember that one from, I think it might have been the first one I went to, Julia, which was about I can't remember any of the exact wording, but it was about seeing a guy in a house through a window on his own, and and that kind of stuck with me, obviously, that it just seemed there was just this guy with this. It just seemed to have like this kind of massive atmosphere around him that someone's sort of looking in on. And that always, well, yeah, like they're kind of slow burners. I think what you write, they go in slowly and stay there.
I completely agree with that. I remember that as well. And you did a follow-up, I think. Did you do a part 2 to that for the year after you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an incredible story. Absolutely incredible. From the outside looking in, or something along those lines. I
Yeah.
don't remember the exact title, but yeah.
And the other one, and the other one was from the inside looking out. It
That's
was
right. Yeah. The rebuttal.
yeah.
Yeah, magnificent. Absolutely magnificent.
It made
Um,
me think,
sorry,
and
go on,
like
Gary.
it just made me think, and what you just read out as well. It's like sometimes trying this sounds like a contradiction with psychology, but sometimes trying to understand everything about someone is kind of you never will. So sometimes you can only just experience them or look, and just kind of getting to know someone is you might not quite just accepting that you'll never really fully understand them. You can't even really fully understand yourself. So don't stand a chance anyway. But it's just that kind of how you have well, I suppose everything's about relationships, really, isn't it, between people, and how a lot of it is sort of very difficult to express or understand. You can just sort of be it and be with it, kind of. That's what I'm. There's that kind of thinking has been prompted by listening to it.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, sometimes you can't, you don't have a lifetime is not enough to unpack yourself, Not to mention someone else to understand someone else. Yeah.
No.
But that's the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah.
Finding new and new meanings and going, well, if you're, courageous enough to go deeper and deeper.
Courageous is the right word, I think. It can be scary to do, can't it? But
sorry, my dog's just come in.
Oh, that's okay.
I'll definitely never
Very
understand
welcome. Always welcome. Always welcome. Can your dog tell any stories?
She's always telling stories.
or at least the subject of the stories, anyway.
Yeah.
Do you have Sorry, Gary.
That's all right. Go on.
I was just going to say, would you like to read anything yourself, Gary? You don't have to read this, but I know you were talking about potentially reading part 2 of the body at some point today. I don't know if you want to or not.
I can do, yeah. And what I wanted to actually, I had the idea that I would like to write something about it, which I think I will post with the hashtags. So I thought, on the surface of it, it's a pretty gruesome story, but I wanted to write more about what it was actually, because it's about sort of family systems and family dynamics and relationship dynamics, and mainly it's about denial and how denial works in families, and hence why there's this like great big stinking dead body in the living room and no one's acknowledging it. But it was also about kind of gaslighting and that kind of thing, and like, I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, every other person is a narcissist or knows how to spot one, and they're like, but it's about like gaslighting. It's like, well, who's crazy? Is it the woman and her family, or is it the man? One of them's right, but you don't. But it keeps chopping and changing as to which one it could be. So it's a bit of a head fuck, to put it bluntly, was the idea. So to try and capture that atmosphere. So I wanted to write something about that, just to sort of take some of the thinking that's behind it. I thought, well, what if you wanted to express denial? What would be one of the biggest, most obvious things that you could show?
Yeah.
But because I've been in environments and atmospheres where there isn't actually that, but it's so palpable that there's something here that people aren't talking about. That you can sense those things.
It's the elephant in the room idea, right? But almost a bit deeper than, yes, you might not be talking about a particular subject at that moment in time, but it's actually more of as we were talking about earlier, I guess the idea, because I see this in your writing and I see this in that particular story. As you say, I don't see it as the surface level kind of horror show.
No.
I see it as a much deeper kind of emotional complexities, I think, are what's going into it, and the fear that you might have of if you say something a little bit stupid, even though it's actually not stupid, that you might be the one who has the shame
Yeah,
on you, and you might
yeah,
get dumped, or you might lose the respect of the family. And as you say, it's that gaslighting idea, and you start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt your own, literally what you see in front of you. It's usually a bit more subtle in everyday life, but this is a great portrayal of that subtlety, I think.
yeah. And it's similar in a way to the Emperor's New Clothes, although that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Emperor's New Clothes analogy is about not someone hiding something, but someone showing something off that isn't really there.
Mhm.
And there's this kind of group delusion that it's there for all kinds of self-serving reasons, and it takes an innocent little kid who's got nothing to prove, nothing to protect, to just say you got no clothes on.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is so obvious to everyone, and that moment of stating the truth breaks the spell for everyone, which is
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
fascinating thing. And it can work in denial as well. It is a kind of spell kind of over everyone, that everyone is unconsciously part. So anyway, I wanted to write about all that stuff just because I find it fascinating. And speaking about making a move into psychology, I'm moving more and more into learning about family systems and family dynamics and stuff, because it's just a world of stuff. I've done all the practical research all my life. So let's go and put some official names to it all. So
Maybe that's the best way to do any form of education, isn't it? Do the practical first, and then but the practical can hurt, right?
so I thought I would like to read out a bit of it, because what I read out, I'm actually going to finish, because I read out the first part of what became part one, only about half of it. So I thought I would just, rather than move on, I would just read out where I left off reading. So just to give Julia the background, it was a story about a guy who's going with his girlfriend to meet her parents for the first time, and it all seems a bit off, and there's a horrible smell, and there are flies everywhere, but no one's acknowledging that. So that's the background. Okay. So right, the camera's on me, so I guess it's time to start. So so just the background. This is, the guy's called Paul, his girlfriend's called Laura, and they've just met her parents, and now they're moving into the living room. So, please come in and sit down, said Lavinia. She drained her glass and waved towards the living room. Vinny, said Graham, we have orders for coffee. Can you do the honours? Lavinia tut-tutted and shook her head. He won't even try to learn how to use it, she said. It was the same with the oven when we had the kitchen done. If I left, he would be dead in a month. Again, Graham turned away. We entered the living room, the door scraping against the carpet. Still not fixed that, then, said Laura. Graham shook his head. The room was stylishly furnished. I looked around and noticed a framed photograph. A young Graham and Lavinia stood with two children, Laura and... Who? Who was that? She never told me she had an older brother. A friend? But I couldn't focus. The stink was overwhelming, cascading in waves, rising and falling in my mouth, in my nose, invading my lungs, my stomach. I had to get out. The air was thick with swirling dark clouds of flies. Please, sit, said Graham. I nodded and made my way around the sofa. And that's when I saw the body. It was lying on the far side of the coffee table. About 6 feet long, the body was covered with a black plastic sheet. Pale white fingers poked out from the side, and a few tufts of dark brown hair stuck out from the top. The body rested in a black pool, squirming with maggots. I sat down, knocking the table and disturbing a bowl of iridescent glass pebbles. It sounded like a wind chime. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run. This was a nightmare. I wanted to jump in the car and just drive until this place was far, far behind me. Okay? What? I said, are you okay? Laura, I didn't know how to finish. She had sat down next to me. All words left me. I wasn't going anywhere. Table 1, barked Graham, stepping into view and carrying a slim rectangular tray on which sat 3 steaming mugs. Laura, move those, would you? He nodded to a couple of cruise brochures. Sure. She pushed them to one side and Graham set the tray down. Where is it next year then? Oh, I don't know, he sighed. Somewhere hot and expensive, no doubt. All she does is drink by the pool. We might as well be in the garden. Then he turned to me. Yours is the green one. I couldn't move. We're not going to say grace, you know, Lavinia, coming in behind us. With great exertion, I reached for the green mug, which shook in my hand, and I spilled coffee on my knees. What's got into you? Said Laura. I couldn't speak. Come on, drink your coffee, she said. You've had a long drive. It'll wake you up. Graham sat in the adjacent armchair, Lavinia perched on the arm, holding a fresh glass. They all stared at me. I looked dismally around the room. That photo again. I squinted, but it kept swaying and blurring. I looked at each of these people in turn. Drink your coffee, said Laura. I took a sip, held it, swallowed, took another. Laura sipped her own, eyeing me over the rim. Leave a review on TripAdvisor, said Graham. Lavinia stood up. You don't even know what that means. That's it. I like the idea of having kind of really stripped back language and making it almost like a kind of, on the surface, it's almost, not quite, but almost like a sitcom kind of setting, you know, sort of suburban sort of. So there's this kind of nice family surface and there's horror underneath. Anyway, that's...
Yeah. But with that kind of stripped back dialogue does mean I do pretty much visualize a scene in my head that looks kind of like a sitcom. Probably not the visual that you have in your head, but yeah, I've kind of made my own version.
In some ways, it would be brilliant to make it a dark humor kind of series, and you could have a laughter track, a really like obvious laughter track going off like, when
like those old American cartoons that would have those canned laughs.
Yeah. So it's like TripAdvisor. You don't even know what that means. You just get the oh!
Yeah, that's really
good. Yeah. It adds a little bit of extra horror. Maybe graphic novel. Oh, I'm getting all ideas now. Graphic novel kind of illustrations going over the top. I think you know an illustrator, Gary. So
yeah. I know an illustrator with enough on the list already.
That's fair. It's a brilliant story, though. I'm engrossed, and I think, like everybody else, I can't wait for, well, part 3 of the written version. I guess technically it will be part I don't know, 5 or 6 of the spoken word.
Yeah, I mean, whatever we do in the next session, I might even just decide to read something else. I don't know, but it's because I won't get it all done. As I've probably read just under half of it now, so that would take too long to read.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see. And as you say, you can choose to read whatever you prefer on the next session. But yeah, we definitely enjoyed it, don't we? So, shall we, because you spoke about it, share to anyone who is watching the brilliant story that Nicola wrote?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do you want to read that? Yes, I can read it.
As a parent, it's so easy to feel like you're feeling, but like a parallel with leadership, you're always learning. My youngest, between the ages of 7 and 9 years old, would be in trouble on a regular basis at school. Every week, I would be called up to discuss her failings and her lack of understanding of boundaries. The child I saw at home, the lovable, clever, and funny child, was severely tested. I often felt she wasn't understood, and it upset me. Don't get me wrong, she was no angel, but she had so many plus points that I struggled to see why the teachers couldn't see it. The turning point was at 9, getting an appointment with a child psychologist who told her she was not naughty. He diagnosed her with ADHD, which was deemed quite uncommon in those days. Realizing the school would not change their attitude, we changed her school. This school had a different outlook, and we were always quick to concentrate on strengths and skills. It was like seeing a new child. She bloomed and was happier. That lesson stayed with me, and I took it with me on my leadership days. When you browbeat people, keep putting people down, and concentrate on their weaknesses, you make their lives harder, demotivate them, and encourage the wrong behaviour. I now work with the motto, understand a person's strengths and tap into them. Concentrate on the good points and see the change you want. What lesson have you learned along the way?
Well, that's actually a good question to ask the both of you.
Yeah, I think anyone can benefit from this type of, let's say, encouragements. You know, if we could actually see the best parts in each other, maybe we wouldn't have, I don't know, so many issues or so many,
Yeah.
Lack of an understanding or empathy or, so yeah. And definitely, I think it's something also present in the school system. It's still present in the school system when children are not encouraged based on their strengths, but rather, criticized for their when they lack in something, in behavior or in, I don't know, attention or in yeah.
Yes, definitely. There's there's a friend of ours. His name is Mark Robinson, and he's a trainer. He trains people on how to present better. A big part of what he does is stripping back all of the PowerPoint, the death by PowerPoint presentations, the kind of ideas, and encourages his students to be a bit more creative and to focus on getting the balance right between educating and entertaining. Um, and you might think that he's going for more education, but no, it's actually cut it back a little bit. Stop trying to over-educate people in your presentations because you could bore them to death. Make it a little bit more entertaining, and then give them something to go away with. Give them something to empower them, which is a brilliant way to teach presentations, and I think it works really well. But something he really focuses on, and I think one of the reasons that he often gets such good reviews for the work he does is he won't discourage people. He won't criticize. Instead, he will um, give positive affirmations for the work they're doing. And because it's often in a group session, he will, when somebody does a particularly good section of a presentation, he will say that was a brilliant part on the way that you managed to, I don't know, focus on this area here and got us all engaged. And then when somebody else comes up who maybe hasn't done that quite as well, but has done something else, like they might have got a few that really they were really able to get those facts into somebody's head, even though they maybe missed the kind of the big explosion point. He'll compliment them on that, but because it's a group session, they're all seeing what each other are being complimented on. Nobody feels bad about their own work, but they're still learning about the things that they maybe didn't do quite as well without feeling crap about it. And it's just a really good, I mean, he would explain it much better than I, but it's just a really good way of teaching, I think, and similarly learns from, I think, some of the lessons that Nicola had learned from her child at school and that she now uses in her business.
That sounds really skillful to be able to do that in a group.
Yeah, I think so. He's really good at what he does. I mean, his the reviews he gets for his presentation workshops are through the roof, and so he's he started it off as a side hustle, and it's now his only thing. So he's done very well.
Yeah, that's really good. And it was good to hear that again. I commented on that as well. That it was good to have a real life example of that, of the idea of it, and also how you talk to yourself. I mentioned that as well, and Nicola said yes, we could be really hard on ourselves, and that. I think the same thing applies. Much harder to do with yourself than with other people, but it's actually much more effective, just like it is with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, as you say, it's very hard to do for yourself. I think many of us are our own worst enemies in that sense. Even if we are good at encouraging others, we're often even better at putting ourselves down. It's a skill a lot of us have, I think.
Yeah. So I guess that's why we all need each other.
Yeah, exactly. I felt a bit Jerry Springer that, but
sorry, yeah.
Take care of yourselves and each other.
Yeah. Can you edit that out?
No, it was brilliant. We all loved it. Right, so we're probably going to finish up in about 10 minutes, I'd say, or just over. Does anybody have another story they would like to share, or even a small anecdote or an idea or something that has sparked their imagination from the conversations we've had today?
The jury is still out on that.
That's absolutely fine. There's I think we've used up a lot of our resources. So
I'm quite inspired to do the quick. Well, I don't know if they're quick, but they're short, like Lenise does.
Yeah,
kind of they sort of thought like that one about does it always have you ever, and have you ever procrastinated after a long
yes,
that was just
genius.
a few words.
Well, I tell you what, then, as that is inspiring you, maybe that could be the way we say goodbye for this evening. Should I say goodbye to the moon?
Yeah.
In that case, before I read.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. Great to see you as always, and hopefully we will see you again on Tuesday night for the final session of storytelling.
Yes, we hope to see anyone who's watching on YouTube and anyone who's watching the recording as well. It would be lovely to see your faces on the in the actual Zoom next Tuesday, and hopefully we can get to hear some of your stories too, because you guys are absolutely wonderful with the work that you do. And so thank you everyone who has watched, and Gary and Yulia, thank you so much for coming along today and for sharing your stories. They have been magnificent, and the nice thing about having, I think, fewer of us is we really got to delve into some of those stories too. We got to talk about them in a bit more detail. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
We will, as always, finish with a story.
Have you ever watched the moon when she's cut down the middle? Like half-eaten, still warm bread with salted butter. She's just a glimmer of herself, but still pushes and pulls the tides with a gentle force. And the stars, scattered like fallen crumbs, stand close by, keeping the night sky afloat, while she waits for fullness to find her again. Thank you, Denise, for that wonderful story. Good night, everyone.